I mean, obviously, if, you know, you're providing a washing machine or something like that, that's kind of an essential item. Everybody really is going to need a washing machine. What else? If it's like a electric fire or an electric oven or anything like that. But as for the little bits and pieces, your kettle, your toaster, things like that, I personally steer clear of them. Let the tenant put their own in. I mean, you know, you can go to Tesco now and buy a kettle and a toaster for 20 quid, can't you? There you go. There you go.
Then you can barter as well.
Get club card points as well. Yeah, so that's what I mean. So for what it's going to cost them, it's just not worth the hassle of getting dragged into anything like that. And then thirdly and finally, fire safety. So obviously any furniture that is provided, sofa, they do need to meet fire regulations. I think anything produced since about 1978 has to meet that regulation. But again, just be careful if you were buying old second-hand furniture to put in the property. Just make sure that it is fit for purpose, because again, you would be liable. Doors, they need to be fire resistant to the set standard. So as the landlord, it is your responsibility to ensure those steps are taken. And then the third and final point on that, the all-encompassing. There's only really two things that we can identify as all-encompassing. Criminal law, obviously that's literally the law of the land. Everybody is covered by that. You all have to observe and act within the law. So, you know, the fact that they owe you a couple of months' rent doesn't mean, as Mike said earlier, you can chuck on the black leather jacket, shave your head, go around there with a baseball bat. Obviously, anything that you do that breaks the law like that is likely to severely impact on your chances of achieving a legal solution to anything, and if it ever went to court would greatly prejudice you in that respect. So you don't want to get involved in anything like that. Always try and stay you know, within the law. As Mike said earlier, if somebody owes you £900, you can beat yourself up over it. You know, end of the day, sometimes you just have to accept that that money's gone and get on with it. It is a business, you know, things can go wrong as well as they can go right. Move on. Sorry, go on.
So the law is actually quite extensive, because it's actually illegal to harass the
Yeah,
tenants.
absolutely.
And harassment can be termed as quite extensively as well. You're not allowed to switch off something.
No.
You know, you're not allowed to say, okay, I'll switch off the heating if you're not going to pay the rent. You're not allowed to, in any way, reduce their enjoyment or something.
No, you're right. You can't just
property.
turn up whenever you want at the property. You have to let that person have privacy and, you know, have to respect their privacy. You have to respect that it's their home now as long as they're in there. And
But one of the books I was reading points out that in what other field can somebody purchase something and not pay for it, and the state will actually protect their rights in some way. You know, it only seems to be in property that you can get away with paying or not paying, or paying late in rent. You know, but that's the way it is.
yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it's like anything, you know, there are pitfalls and there are people out there that want something for nothing. You know, while the statistics identify that it is a very small percentage, you know, about 3% of tenants that are problematic. If you've only got 2 properties and one of your properties happens to have one of those problematic tenants, it does impact massively on your business and your ability to make money. It can be a real drain on your time, your finances, and, you know, your state of mind as well. Particularly if, you know, you're doing it as a kind of sideline, you're doing your day job, you've got enough stress from that. The last thing you want to be doing is going home and worrying about your, you know, your investments all the time. And unfortunately, there's, you know, little you can do about it. Obviously, to quote Mike's 2 famous words, you can do all the due diligence. You know, if it's a private thing, maybe you've credit checked the person, you know, you've got references. I mean, how many of you would pay any attention to a reference from another landlord? Yes or no, you would? Yeah? I mean, if you know the landlord, obviously, it's a little bit different. To me, if a private landlord gives somebody a reference, it might be because they're desperate to get them out their own property, so they give them a glowing reference. So the next landlord thinks, oh, yeah, great, you know, these are wonderful tenants, and takes them on. The one landlord's rubbing his hands or her hands because they've got rid of their problem tenant, and you're left lumbered with them. So I have to be honest, I wouldn't recommend to pay a great deal into a reference, unless you know the landlord.
I was thinking about a bad reference.
Ah, yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. absolutely. Obviously, if a previous landlord says, you know, bad payers, yeah, absolutely.
But then you're never going to see that reference.
Nah,
No tenants can offer it.
nah.
I gave one recently. It was
There
not
you go.
particularly good.
He's not going to show it to anybody, is he?
No, it was asked for by the
Oh, I
the
see.
next
Mhm.
letting agent.
Yeah, yeah,
Asked me, wrote
Yeah.
to me,
sure.
and I said trustworthy but rude and unpleasant to deal with or something.
Right.
It's not very good.
Yeah.
I said that they were trustworthy.
I mean, how many people in here would give a problematic tenant a glowing reference if it meant getting them out your own property? Come on, be honest. There you go. It is, unfortunately, isn't it? It's all about self-preservation and looking after number one. And, yeah, you know, in an ideal world, there'd be kind of a database and this person would be there and you'd have access to their information, like a credit file. But
There is, isn't there? Something called Maras.
is there?
Yeah.
I
something
haven't
called
heard of
Maras.
it, to
I
be
remember
honest.
When I was a tenant
Yeah.
last in London, that they looked us up on something called
Mm.
Maras database.
Right. If it is, it's not an all-encompassing system, for example, like the credit,
I never
you know,
heard of it
files that you would get. But, that's interesting. But yeah, you know, like I say, you have to remain within the law. Don't do anything that would prejudice yourself if anything ever went to court. I mean, the bottom line, if somebody's got an AST in place, they don't pay, they refuse to pay, you can take it to court, you will get them out, providing you've done everything that you needed to do along that basis. And then the last one, the law of tort. Literally negligence and personal injury. So you might have got the corgi person in, you might have carried out, you know, the fire inspection, the electrical safety check. You are still liable. So, you know, if there's a staircase and the staircase is a little bit loose and not secured properly, you are still responsible for that. So it's just really making sure that anything in the property that could compromise the safety of the people living there is looked after. Any questions? I think I've sent you all to sleep there going through the interesting stuff. You'd be pleased to hear that is all we need to cover on taxation and legal aspects. Over to Mike, who will give you now some more information about what Ahuja does and how you might want to use their services.
So can you get insurance for that total?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I mean, again, you know, it is negligence. Obviously, you know, it's like anything. It's on the individual merits of the case. You know, if somebody in the property was doing something that was completely out the ordinary, you know, maybe that you just couldn't have foreseen, then it's going to be difficult for them to try and prove you were liable for something. But, you know, it's really just making sure everything is okay. So doing your own due diligence, making sure floorboards are okay, they're in place. I mean, again, it's common sense at the end of the day, you know. All I would say, ignore the decor, ignore the colour of the walls and the state the carpet's in and things like that. If you've got children or anything, just think, you know, if this was my house, if this was my home and I was living here and I was here with my wife and my children or, you know, whatever, whoever you hold dear to you in life, just think, would I be comfortable and would I feel my family was safe? And if you feel that, then, you know, that's all you need to feel. The fact the curtains you don't like and you wouldn't have them yourself or the carpet, that's irrelevant. But, you know, would you feel this is a safe home to live in? Would you be happy if your child was running around in there?